Hello everyone, this is Berg Productions here with a video on how to live a simple life. Now this video may seem like a contradiction, but I'll go ahead and explain this. We all have fears of another economic recession on the heels of one of the longest recessions since the Great Depression. The economy does rely on lavish spending to help grow the economy not only nationally, but statewide and locally as well. But in the midst of the country being in a $20 trillion debt, is there hope for the modern-day adults that just want to have a roof over their head and nothing more? Yes, there is. How do you live a simple life? First, do not live in a city. The expenses of living in a city is way too high for single individuals to live without a roommate. With the average rent in apartments or trailers, the electric bills, transportation costs, and the cost of food, there is no way a single person can economize without the help of another person living with them. The city is a toxic place to live not just environmentally, but socially toxic as well. So the first step is save your money and find a plot of land for sale out in the countryside. Rent is not an option. Second, do not buy a house. The same suggestion applies to trailers. Why? Because if it's just you living there, you do not need to waste money paying an exorbitant electric bill, water bill, among other things. Also, the property taxes are high on houses. As for trailers, not a great place to protect yourself if you live in an area that is tornado-prone. The second step is that after you buy a plot of land out in the countryside, you go ahead and buy yourself a barn. A wood barn or a metal tool shed only cost a couple of $1,000s. But guess what? You own the house without waiting 10 to 30 years to pay it off. It's yours that quickly. See? Logic! All you gotta do is establish a foundation, plumbing, and then you put your barn on that spot and work from there. In the end, you may pay a range from $600 to $2,000 turning your barn into a one-man house. Guess what? Unless you fall in love and get married, you can save $10,000 to $20,000 a year in personal expenses living like this. Think about it. If you make $30,000 a year and live in a barn, with electricity and plumbing of course, you can get wealthy within 10 years of frugal spending and using common sense. That's an example of grassroots conservative living. Third, wash and dry your clothes the old-fashioned way. The average cost of operating a washer and dryer is $600 a year on the electric bill. And if you want to save money washing and drying clothes, here's what you do. Get an old wash tub, buy a washboard, a wringer, start making your own washing detergent, use the washboard to clean your clothes with, and then wring the clothes before you dry it. Yes, it does require hard work, but if you are out there in the fresh air and sunshine, you can ease a lot of stress doing this. As for drying clothes, get a couple of tall poles, get some ropes, and make a clothesline out of it. Then you buy some clothespins, pin your clothes on the clothesline, and let the sun dry the clothes. I figure that you can save $500 a year drying clothes like that. However, if it's cold and humid, take your clothes to the laundromat downtown to dry your clothes. I wouldn't recommend drying your clothes near an oven because that would spike your electric bill or set your barn on fire. Fourth, plant a garden. It don't matter if you till your garden the old-fashioned way with a garden hoe or till with a rototiller. Planting a garden successfully not only gives you fresh food for cheap, but how you grow it can also make the food nutrient-dense. So as long as it don't flood and you use wood ashes daily to feed the garden with, you will have nice delicious food and better health for it. Food costs are outrageous, so you gotta take a risk and learn how to grow food correctly. If you are living out in the countryside, of course you want to buy fruit trees at your local garden center or nursery. If you plan to live in a barn, you should buy fruit trees gradually. Blueberry bushes are high maintenance, but if you can keep the soil acidic, you can have fresh blueberries every summer. Fifth, invest in some birds. Chickens, ducks, turkeys, it don't matter. It's always best to figure out where you can get birds for a thrifty price. It's usually best to get chickens first since they lay eggs constantly throughout the year. 1 rooster, 10 hens. That's all you need to start with. If you decide to add ducks and turkeys to your collection of birds, keep in mind that ducks and turkeys lay eggs during the springtime. The benefits of raising these birds are not only that you can get eggs from these birds so you have something to eat for breakfast every morning, but when it comes time to slaughter the birds, you also have fresh meat to cook and eat with. Once again, smart way to save money. If you want grass-fed red meat of your own, you buy goats, raise them, and then find a place to slaughter and process the goats so you have fresh red meat. The cost of raising your own red meat versus buying red meat at the supermarket monthly, what do you think costs more? Finally, don't spend your money like crazy all because you bought a plot of land, a barn, did your own plumbing and electrical work. Remember, a barn or tool shed is meant for only one person. This is the future of how single people can survive and be self-reliant. If you want to save money, you got to be self-reliant. If you want to retire and live on the land someday, you got to be self-reliant. Don't worry about buying a house. Unless you are a married person with children, living in a barn will protect you from living on the streets. It don't matter if you live in the west, the east, the north, or the south. It don't matter if you live in the hill country, the desert, the woods. Living in a barn in the countryside will make the single people's lives better. Whether you youngsters living in an apartment are fed up with rent or not, you cannot deny that paying rent for an apartment is a lot more stressful than saving to set up a barn and convert it to a house. Think about the money you can save approaching this rather than paying $900 a month for rent plus the electric and water bills. Compare $15,000 in expenses a year for the rent, bills, transportation, and food costs compared to $1,300 a year for bills, transportation, and food if you're living on a barn. If you bought a barn and spent $3,000 turning it into a house, the first year of expenses should be over $4,000. Then the savings really start adding up afterward. Anyway, this is Berg Productions with a video on how to live a simple life. Thank you and good day.